Selling on Amazon is hard, and with so much information out there, you probably don't even know where to get started. So in today's video, I want to show you the exact methods that I use to grow my business up to 7 figures, which is also now making over 100K each month. So grab a pen and paper or a notepad and make sure to watch the video until the very end, because I will show you everything in order for you to start selling on Amazon and how to make it a profitable business and how it will help you to leave your 9 to 5 and finally become your own boss. So in order to start selling on Amazon the right way, the very first thing you're going to have to take care of is the setups. In other words, you're going to have to set up the business bank account, Amazon professional sellers account, Helium 10 for product research, and Alibaba. This is where all your products will come from overseas. So when it comes to the business, if you're in the UK, then doing it via Companies House is going to probably be your best bet. It will take you no more than 30 minutes. You will pay £12 and you will get it all sorted, and you will get all of the paperwork in your mailbox within the next couple of days, and you will now have a fully fledged business ready for Amazon. If you're in Europe or you're overseas, then you may want to set up an LLC yourself or potentially speak to an accountant to do it properly for you. Now, I can't stress this enough, guys. You have to do it properly, because if you mess up around the paperwork or something doesn't get done properly the right way in the very beginning, you may have a struggle and you may potentially finding it difficult to actually move into Amazon. And actually, when it comes to creating the Amazon professional sellers account, you may find it a lot more difficult to get everything started, because they will get you various hoops to jump over in order to start selling on the platform. You got to be really careful and very diligent, because once all of this is done, then you'll be perfectly fine. Now, the second thing you need to do is set up the business bank account. So just like you yourself have your own checkings account, your own savings account, your business has to have one too. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot use your personal account in the very beginning if you're going to start selling on Amazon. So once you set up the business, whatever country you're in, you have to set up a business bank account as well. Now, here in the UK and in Europe, I would actually recommend going through the digital banking route, because they're a lot faster and they can set you up within a couple of days. However, if you want to go the more safer alternative route, you can also use the high street retail banks such as Lloyds, Barclays, HSBC, and so on. Now, once the business and the business bank account is done, only then can you go and set up your Amazon professional sellers account. When it comes to selling on Amazon, you have two options. First is the individual account, which is basically used for people that just want to sell off 1 or 2 items every now and then. And then you have the professional sellers account, which gives you a lot more flexibility, a lot more details. And that is the account that I want you to go for, because this is for serious sellers that want to make it a 6, 7, and potentially even an 8-figure business. Now, the key thing to remember when it comes to setting up your own Amazon professional sellers account is making sure that all of the details that you put in are 100% correct, because they will be verified. So pay careful attention to all of the information that put about yourself and your business, as well as your business bank account. Once those 3 pieces are all done, then you're going to have a verification interview with one of Amazon's seller support staff to make sure that you are a real person and make sure that you are going to be playing by their rules and guidelines, so you're not some sort of a scam or anything like that just to game their system to make some extra sales. Now, once you set up your business bank account, and your Amazon professional sellers account, you are effectively ready to start selling on the platform. However, before you go any further, the next thing you need to do is set up your own Alibaba account. This is where you will be speaking to all of your suppliers in China. Alibaba is essentially Amazon for Chinese suppliers in their country, because this is where all of the wholesalers, the factories are going to be producing and actually placing their products on the platform to advertise to people all over the world. Now, unlike AliExpress, where you can just buy a couple of items, people that actually advertise on Alibaba are serious businesses and they expect you to buy in large quantities. So make sure to set up your account correctly there. And this is the next thing that we're going to go through in the detail in this tutorial, as to how exactly you negotiate with your suppliers, how do you speak to them, and how to make sure you get the best possible prices. Now, the very last thing you need to do is get yourself a product research tool. In other words, you're going to have to use a piece of software to find out which products are good, which ones have demand, which ones are going to be profitable. And the number one tool that I personally recommend, and the one that I have been using for the last 4 years, has been Helium 10. Not only they are by far the most accurate one, but also they are extremely good when it comes to managing your business on a day day-to-day basis as well. The tool will be able to help you when it comes to calculating your profitability, actually helping you getting more reviews, and helping you decide which products to restock and which ones should be selling out because they're not bringing you that much profit. So check out the link in the bio for my 50% discount link, and let's get started. All right, so now with all of that out the way, let's talk about the most important part of the business, and that is product research. And I cannot stress this enough, guys. If you mess this up and you get the wrong product or the one that doesn't have enough demand, then you will fail at this business, because no matter how good your listing is, no matter how good you negotiate with your suppliers, if the product is bad, nobody's going to be interested in buying it. So when it comes to product research, the very number one thing that you have to think about is standing out, being different to the rest of the competition, bringing out something that the customers and the market has not seen before. And in today's video, what I wanted to show you is two things. Number one, how to get those ideas and how to look into the niches that actually do have the demand, how to do the idea generation part, which is very important. However, that is the easy bit. The hard bit is actually the research, finding out which ideas to pursue further, which ones that we should start speaking to suppliers about, which ones actually have the amount of demand that is good for us, that we are actually interested in getting into. Because if you're going to be spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on your very first product, you have to make sure that all checks and balances are in place in order for you to reduce the amount of risk as possible and come up with the best possible product that will bring you a lot of profit into the future. So with that being said, let's get straight to it. The very first thing is we need to talk about is the idea generation. How do you come up with ideas? How do you come up with potential categories for you to look into further? And there are a couple of ways of doing so. And until the very end of this chapter, what I'm going to do is actually show you the one that I use the most. The one she's giving me so many products that have become very, very profitable and are actually pretty straightforward and easy and eliminates a lot of the hard work. So make sure to watch till then. Now, when it comes to ideas, the very first way to go about it is actually using the Amazon bestsellers. This is the easiest, most straightforward way to find out, and it's by literally just going into Amazon's marketplace and clicking on the bestsellers and then going into different categories right over here. Now, the categories that I personally myself go into most often usually tends to be baby products, because these are the sort of products that, regardless of what happens in the economy, will always sell well throughout the year. Beauty, I really love as well, because there are so many sub niches within that category and a bunch of products that don't actually have any well-known brands associated to it, which is very, very useful. Then I also like to go into electronics and photo as well, but this is usually reserved for people that have been selling on Amazon for a little while. The very first product you want to go for is usually something light, something cheap, something simple, and most importantly, something that is not electrical or battery powered, because let's be honest, these products are coming from China, which are not known for the best of quality. So maybe electronics and photo, we'll leave that out for now. We then want to go into look into health and personal care, because it is such a broad category for you to look into as well. But once again, with health and personal care, you may want to stay away from products that are actually like sort of some pills or creams or anything like that, because then Amazon will ask you for the ingredients list and various other paperwork that you will have to submit before actually selling the very first product. And this is a obstacle that I wouldn't recommend for my brand new students to get into. Now, after that, home and kitchen is a great category to go into as well. But with home and kitchen, the trouble is the fact that some of those products are actually quite big, quite heavy, and quite expensive. And if you're just going to start selling on Amazon, you really want to reduce the risk as much as possible. Do not go for expensive products in the very beginning. This is what I tell off all of my students when they're just getting started, because they have large budgets and they will actually spend thousands and thousands of dollars on pounds on their very first product when they don't really know what they're doing. So start small, start cheap, and once you understand the process from start to finish, then you can go into much more expensive categories such as electronics and photo and home and kitchen. And then the last one that I would actually recommend, well, the last two, is sports and outdoors. This is a brilliant category as well that has loads of differentiation in it, and one of my most profitable items happens to be in that category. And then toys and games. That one goes without saying, because during Christmas, this is the category you want to be in. The more toys and games products you have around Q4, the busiest time of the year, you will be making a killing in terms of sales, profits, and it will propel you into the future in terms of reinvesting the money back into the business. Now, when it comes to bestsellers, all you need to do is click on one of the categories. So for example, let's say baby products. And then I'm just looking, like I said, for something cheap, something simple, something light that I could potentially look into further. So for example, water wipes looks interesting, but to be completely honest, how am I exactly going to differentiate with water wipes? The product is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. The next one, again, baby sensitive baby wipes, very, very similar, probably not the best one. Johnson's & Johnson's baby cotton buds. This is a product that is clearly very well known by the brand. I mean, I know Johnson's, and therefore I don't really want to compete against them. But then we have something simple like this, for example, like suitable for 2 months, teeth and skin soft silicone, whatever this is, basically, I would potentially look into this further and see, because the product is simple, cheap, light, not electrical, and it's quite, pretty straightforward, to be completely honest. However, my only worry with this particular product would be the differentiation aspect. How many different varieties within this niche are there? And I would just keep on going more and more and more until I find potentially something interesting. Okay. Some of these, actually majority of these products probably won't be right for you, because they're either going to be well-known brands, because these are at the end of the day the best sellers. And because of that, you may want to move into something called movers and shakers. Now, movers and shakers, on the other hand, which is right here, okay, is slightly different. With movers and shakers, you will actually find new products each and every single hour, because what that means is these products are shown, the ones that are actually selling the best in the last 24 hours. So the products that you find today may be very different to the products that you'll find tomorrow, and make sure to keep that in mind. So once again, let's just go on this occasion, let's do sports and outdoors, and let's have a look. So the very first one, for example, I wouldn't get into because they're quite pricey. As you can see, this is a hand warmer, but maybe for your first product, not the best one, but maybe second, third, fourth, if you feel like you're confident and you know what you're doing, maybe something to look into further. A smartwatch, very, very expensive, very risky. I was still well away from. But then, as you can see again, hand warmer for this third one and the fourth one and the eighth one. So clearly this one has a lot of demand, a lot of people interested in buying it. So I may potentially look into maybe for my next one. And as you can see here, the very first one here goes up from £20 to £50. But over here, we have one at £10. So maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. So I may potentially look into it myself. But then look at other products as well, such as a water bottle here. Again, a very, very competitive niche that a lot of people look into when they're just getting started. And the problem with that one, personally, for me, is the lack of differentiation. I mean, how many different water bottles are out there? And personally, probably wouldn't be right for me. But here's a good one that I would potentially be interested in: a boxing reflex ball. Okay, clearly doing well, given its sales rank has jumped up by 200% in the last 24 hours. It has decent amounts of reviews, decent amount of price, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So I would just basically click on that, or just go into the very top of the search bar and put in boxing reflex ball and see what happens. Now, what sometimes may happen is that this particular product is doing well, but the whole category is not. In other words, this product is taking up the vast majority of the sales. If that is the case, then you may want to be careful moving into that sort of category, because you will be in direct competition with someone that is dominating the niche, that has the niche under like a monopoly. And basically that is not exactly a good way to look into. What you ideally want to do is have a category where a whole bunch of products are selling, and are selling extremely well, and there is diversity within the revenue. Okay, so there are multiple products in that category that are selling in big numbers. That is your ideal. Okay, now after using the best sellers, and oh look, there's another one, reflex ball as well. So maybe this may be a good category for you to look into. Once you have done the best sellers and the movers and shakers, and let's say you haven't found anything interesting, the next one you may potentially want to use is Black Box via Helium 10. Now, this is a really, really good tool, and it's one of the tools that I actually use the most, believe it or not. And this is where you will actually put in a category that you want to sell in. You will put in your filters, your criteria, and then they will actually give you a whole bunch of products that actually meet that criteria. So let me give you an example. Let's say we go into baby products, and you do, ideally, I would say go one niche by one niche. Don't just put in all of the niches at once, because it will only spit out up to 200 products. So you want to do one by one. The next thing, review count, I'll put down 50. okay? Because that would imply that the product hasn't been around for too long, okay? And 50 reviews is not that difficult to get. Next thing I would do is the weight, okay? In the weight category, I would put no more than 2 pounds, because if the product is heavy, that means it will have to be sea shipped. And if it has to be sea shipped, it will take anything between 2 to 3 months for that product to arrive from China to the US, to the UK, to Europe, and so on. Whether if the product is lighter, you will actually use air shipping, and that is much faster and much more straightforward and can come to you within 1 week to 2 weeks time. So initially, we want to start light, something cheap, something simple, and something that we can sell as soon as possible, because that is how we make money at the end of the day. Then we will leave all of these blank. We want to keep it as open as possible, except for one, listing age. And I now put around 3 months. So a listing has to be fitting this criteria in the baby product niche, and it has to be very young in the last 3 months. Then competitors, don't care about that at all. Price, I will put down no more than £15 or dollars. Let's do UK. For the UK customers, okay, we'll put down 50. Oh, we have to change that all over again. So we'll just quickly do that. £2, there you go, and 3 months, okay. And then what we'll do is go on to monthly revenue, and we'll put down a minimum of £1,000. And essentially that is it. So just to recap, baby product that has got relatively low reviews, that's quite a new listing, quite a new, basically a niche that hasn't been around for too long. Only £2 in terms of weight of the product. Price is the most expensive, is going to be £15, because if it's expensive on Amazon, then it will be expensive on Alibaba. So we want to start cheap. And then a monthly revenue of £1,000 or over, okay? And then we'll click on search. And very, very quickly, you will see 166 items that actually meet that criteria. Now, if I didn't put the 3 months bit, it will be way more than that. But all of these products basically now tell me that, hey, they literally just started selling. Their reviews are still relatively low. They're still quite cheap, quite simple, quite straightforward, quite light. And this is how I get my ideas. And straight away, I see myself one idea. So the first one, the universal rain cover for push chair, stroller, buggy, pram. Okay, so it's not the actual stroller that you're selling, because that will be just way too expensive, but the rain cover for it may potentially be a decent shout, because hey, it's making £3,500 in revenue. It is within the right price. Okay, its weight is under £1, so it can be air shipped very, very quickly. And as you can see, it doesn't have that many reviews. It doesn't, sales to reviews is actually very good as well. And it's something that I would note down as one of the ideas for me to look into further. And then again, another one, baby sleeping bag, 100% cotton. As you can imagine, there are tons of variation within the baby sleeping bag niche, so why not look into that further? So unlike the best sellers and the movers and shakers, where a lot of products don't actually match the criteria, and I personally would never look into, this one is much more useful for me personally, because it is something that I could potentially use and I could potentially look into further, okay? But once again, this is still the idea generation part, and like I said, this is the easy part. We're coming to the hard part, guys. The next one, let's say we can't find anything at all. Okay, let's say we can't do anything at all. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just go onto Google, type in a random word generator, and I'll just generate a simple word. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy this word, go all the way up to Amazon, and then just put that in. And as you can see, straight away, Helium 10 will show me all of the Amazon suggestions, what people put in after the word presentation, and the amount of search volume that it has. Most of the time, what I want to do is I want to look amongst the top ones, because those are the ones that have the most amount of search volume. And chances are, if it's most amount of search volume, the most amount of revenue will be there as well. So what I can do is I can just play around with the random word generator and just put that in and see what kind of ideas come up with. Now, this isn't the best way of looking in for new product research ideas. However, if you feel sometimes stuck and you feel like you've watched through all of the products on Amazon, which literally is impossible given that there are millions of products, you can just put that in and just play around with it and see what you come up with. Some of my students, I kid you not, have found the best products that have made them over 6 figures in profit using a random word generator. So you never know what you'll come up with. Okay. Now, once that is done, once we have generated some ideas, and ideally you want to generate 5, 10, 15, 20 product research ideas for you to look into further, that is done. the next thing we need to move on is by far the most important part of all of this business, which is the actual research and making sure you do this correctly, because if you don't, you will end up losing a lot of money. And this is where on my course with my students, we have the most amount of modules covering this topic, because it is crucial for you to do it properly the right way, and where a majority of my mentorship is geared and focused on, okay? And that is the product research part. Now, let's say, for example, we found a dog toy, okay? This is the category that we want to look into. We found, a product within the idea generation part, and now we want to figure out, okay, how do we do the research? How can we figure out if this product is potentially for us? And if so, what kind of products should we be looking at? Okay, so the very first thing I want to do is essentially look through the category, through the niche, okay? Which one is the best seller? Which one is the Amazon's choice? And just look through their listings to try and get an idea of the price points of the product, how simple it is there variety on it, etc. So what I'm looking at right now is really, really simple. The very first thing, I can see that there is loads of variety. As you can see, each and every single product looks different, which is very, very promising. The next thing, they are also quite cheap, which is very good for me as well, because like I said, the cheaper the product in the beginning, the better, because your risk is a whole lot lower. You may not make as much profit as you may want to do, but ideally in the beginning, you want to reduce your risk and reduce your reward just when you're getting started. We will get to the expensive products later. And this is what I tell my students all the time. Okay, so as we keep on going, you can see plenty of differentiation, plenty of variation. So that is ticked. The price point is ticked. These products look nice, light, and simple. Again, ticked, okay? But this is not where the research ends. It only gets started, okay? The next thing we need to do is go into Helium 10's X-ray product research tool, okay? And this is where we'll find out all of the information that we need to make a much better educated decision. It will also, first of all, show us the search volume. I personally don't care about it too much, because that will depend on more so the price point. So the search volume may be high, but if the price point is low, then the total revenue is going to be low. What I care about far more is the total revenue. And my benchmark is very simple. Anything under 100,000, I do not look into. In other words, all of these products, if they don't reach £100,000 a month in revenue, I'm not interested, okay? The next thing I will look into is the average price. This is fine. Anything under 15 is good. Now, sometimes what will happen, it may be slightly over 15 because there's a couple of products that are very, very expensive, pushing the average up, but this is well within my range limits, and that is perfectly fine, okay? Then, once these two things are covered, I now seen the differentiation, I now seen the variation. The next thing I want to do is look at the sales graphs. And as you can see, quite a lot of products are actually increasing in sales as we're speaking right now. So this is the sales graph over the last 30 days. And as you can see, a lot of them are picking up in sales, which means that this category is actually on the rise. This total revenue is going up as opposed to going down. Okay, that is also a very, very promising sign. The next thing I will do is now sort it by revenue. I want to find out which products are actually selling the best, okay? And what's so special about them? What's so special? Is it because they're relatively cheap? Is it because they stand out something, or is there something different from them, okay? And I would actually click on these listings and find out in a little bit more detail as to what exactly is so special, okay? And the last but not least, I also want to do is I actually want to look at the review count for this category and see, are there products on the first page that have got a relatively low review count? If they do, that's great. If they don't, that is a problem, because it shows that the established products tend to hoard the very first page, where the vast majority, matter of fact, 80% of the sales come from. So what I want to do is I want to see any products that have got reviews under 100. And as you can see here, comes the first problem, because as I'm looking through all of these products, there is the lowest one I can find right now is with 158 reviews, actually 116, okay? So that means if we bring out our own product, getting on the first page may be quite difficult, which is a problem. That is actually a big, big red flag. But let's just ignore that red flag for the sake of this tutorial, and let's keep on going. Now, the next thing what I will do is, okay, once I have found out that this is the niche for me, this is what I'm looking into, the next thing I want to do is I want to look through some of these most expensive products out there and try and figure out, why are people buying them? So for example, with this dog toy here, as you can see, it is the best seller. It is 1K bought in the past month. So clearly people are selling it in high volumes and high demand. And I want to try and figure out exactly what is it so special about this. So is it the title, for example? How are the images? Are they any good? Now, the key here, guys, whenever you find a product that is selling well, but you can look at the images and you can look at the title and say to yourself, hey, I can improve on this. This image right here that I'm looking at right now, I can make that a whole lot better. That is a good sign. The last thing you want to do is come across a listing that is selling extremely well and it's amazing and there's nothing else you can do about it. Then that is a problem. You ideally want to look for potential areas of improvement for you to look into further. Okay. And as you can see here right now, for me personally, the title may be a little bit too long. I would reduce that. Okay. The images, the first one is beautiful in my opinion. The second one, not so great. And we'll look into images a little bit further down the line in this tutorial as well. Some of these images I would potentially be improving, and because I would improve on these images, that is a good sign for me, okay? But the research doesn't stop there, okay? I would look at the key features. Do they sell the product? Do they actually explain what the product is? But most importantly, I would actually look at the ratings as well. This product is the best seller in this dog category, but it's only got a 4.1 star review average. That means some people are actually not too happy with it. So I would go all the way down, okay? And I would actually look at the reviews, but I would only look at the negative ones because that is what is actually going to help me decide what's wrong with this product. Is this what people are looking for, what people are not happy about? And I will actually write down what these things are. So when I'm starting to speak to my suppliers, I can note down and make sure that, hey, this product is not flimsy. It doesn't squeak that for less than 5 minutes, you know? All of these things are actually legs followed very soon after. So clearly it's not been made very well. So when I'm speaking to my suppliers, if I'm looking for something similar of this nature, I would make sure to ask things like, okay, how long does the squeakiness last? You know, what kind of material is it made from? And so on and so forth, to make sure that I can improve on this, okay? 0 stars, seriously dangerous, do not buy. Miniature 1-year-old, etc. 2 minutes, squeaker was out, and so on. So given that it is cheap, it means that it's relatively of poor quality as well. So sometimes you may not even want to go for the cheapest item in the category. You may want to go for the best quality one, because what tends to happen is if you go for the cheapest one, you may start selling very well in the beginning. However, if a lot of people start leaving you negative reviews, that product is going to completely tank because people tend to not buy products that have got a star rating of 4 stars or under. Something to really keep in mind about. So in my opinion, product quality always is more important than the product price. Keep that in mind, guys, if you want to sell on Amazon in the long term. Okay, so now next thing I would do is, once I've done this research, and as you can see, it is quite important, there's quite a lot to do. The next thing I would do is actually go onto Google Trends. Okay, now, and I will put in dog toys. Now, Google Trends is an interesting one because, for example, it basically tells us, do people buy this sort of product more at certain times of the year? And as you can see, dog toys, I did not know that. This is a surprise to me as well. The fact that it is actually a trendy product, the demand spikes for it at certain times of the year, and it seems like it spikes around the Christmas time. So no wonder we saw that the search volume has actually gone up for dog toys, given that it is actually increasing every single year. And that is a good thing and also a bad thing, because if we buy ourselves a dog toy around the August-September time, then we know the demand for these products will increase and we should start making sales. However, there is also a negative to that. If we actually start looking at dog toys now, as the revenue is already peaking, by the time the product arrives, Christmas will be gone, we'll start in the new year, and would actually start to follow that decline. And basically what that means is that the £160,000 in revenue that we just saw may be the very peak. Maybe once it all comes back down, the revenue will actually drop off significantly, and you will be stuck with a whole bunch of inventory that you are unable to sell until the very next year, October, November time. So these are the sorts of research things that we always talk about in my mentorships, in my courses, because the last thing you want to do is buy a whole bunch of product and then literally have it stuck in the warehouse for the next 10 months. Okay, this is not the position you want to be in. And the reason why is because whenever products are stuck in Amazon's warehouse, you will have to pay for that storage each and every single month. Okay, this is why I also go for lighter products and simpler and much smaller products, because the storage for them is much cheaper as well. Okay, so once we figured out the Google Trends, then comes the basically figuring out exactly if we're going to go down this route, how do we come across something that is different, something new, and something unique? And what I tend to do is I actually tend to go into different marketplaces. I sometimes go into Amazon.com. I may sometimes go on eBay. I may sometimes go on to any other marketplace and see what is selling there. So for example, in the US marketplace, there is a dog toy here that is the overall pick that actually looks very, very nice. But when we actually look at the UK market, there is nothing of such. Okay, so what I would do is I would screenshot this. I would keep on looking. Potentially this is not found there as well. Now, some products you will find that is also in the other marketplace, but these ones are not. And when I've screenshotted a few of these products, I will keep them. And then what I will do is when I get to speak to my suppliers, when I start negotiating, I would literally send them one of these screenshots that I found and say, hey, can you find me a product like this? Because it is not being sold in my marketplace that I want to sell in. That is, guys, how you differentiate. This is how you find other products. And the beautiful thing with Amazon is before you may potentially want to buy this product and introduce into your marketplace, you can actually look at the reviews. And as you can see, this one actually has a 4.3 star average rating. So it may actually be a better product than the best selling one currently on the marketplace, which is a very, very good sign. So what I would do is I would screenshot that and I would share it with my suppliers and say, hey, do you have this? If so, what is the price? Okay. And then very, very simple. If you stayed until now, I want to show you the best way to generate your ideas. Okay. Movers and shakers, bestsellers. Okay, they're okay. The black box is not too bad, and it's actually the one that I use sometimes myself. The random word generator also comes in handy once in a while. But the one that I use the most, believe it or not, is actually looking at other sellers and finding out what they're selling themselves. So, for example, let's have a look at this shower head right now. I will click on this particular listing. And I like the product, okay? It's clearly doing well. It's clearly selling a lot of money. And I actually am curious as to what this seller is actually selling else. So what I would do is I would click on their product storefront over here. And now it will actually show me all of the product that this guy is actually selling on the Amazon marketplace. So instead of me looking for various ideas for me to look into further and then research and so on, this person has got 148 products selling on Amazon. And as you can see, they actually match a lot of the criteria that I personally look for. Small, light, cheap, simple, non-electrical. All of these potential are great product research ideas, and we shortcut the process massively. So instead of spending time and time looking again through various lists, coming up with 10, 15 ideas for us to research into further, you can just literally look at another seller and just pick some of the ideas that are working the best for him if he has exactly the same criteria. This is the main method that I teach my students on how to shortcut the process and start selling as fast as possible. All right, so now that we found the category and the products that we want to look into, the next thing we need to talk about are suppliers and shipping, which is also very important because if you don't do it the right way, you may find yourself getting the wrong product, having it lost, or potentially some various delays that will impact your business in a big way. And the best way to actually go about this is actually using Alibaba, which is an account that you should already have by now. Now, when it comes to selling on Amazon and buying products from Alibaba, the newbies, the ones that don't have any help, no support at all, they will go onto Alibaba, they will click on products, they will put in dog toy, and they will start looking for various products. The professionals though, the ones that have been doing it for a long time and actually the ones that want to build a long-lasting relationship will actually click on manufacturers and will focus far more their efforts on the manufacturers as opposed to singular products. So I would still put in dog toys here. For example, we'll just keep on using that example for now. And then I actually care far more about the actual company as opposed to the products, because what I will do is once I start speaking to them, I will send the screenshots of the products that I'm actually looking for further, so then they can have a look whether or not they can provide them or not. Now, when it comes to manufacturers, there are a couple of things that you need to do first. The very first one, and this is non-negotiable, you have to click trade assurance. Basically, what that means is that just like with Amazon, if you're not happy with a certain product, you're not happy with something, then you can potentially request a refund. Exactly the same thing happens with trade assurance as well. Because what happens is once you pay to a supplier that has accepted trade assurance, that supplier won't actually get the money until the product is delivered. Okay? In other words, if the product doesn't get delivered, money stays with Alibaba, and once you request a refund, they can basically give you the refund very quickly. So you want to make sure that you always have a trade assurance on. The next thing is verified pro supplier as well. What this basically means is Alibaba has done many checks and balances to make sure that this is a legitimate supplier. It is not somebody that just has a small office that's trying to make sales, scam you out of your money and run away. They have actually done the inspections, they have done everything and making sure that you are speaking only to the best and most reputable suppliers. Now, The good thing about this is that the risk is much lower. The bad thing is that usually verified pro suppliers are slightly more expensive. However, in my personal opinion, for my own personal sanity, I will always go for a verified pro supplier and pay that little bit extra just to make sure I'm safe. Now, the next thing is as I have clicked on both of these, straight away, the only country that I can actually buy from is China. Now, if I unclick these, you will see other countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and so on. However, I personally, because these two to me personally is non-negotiable, I will actually go for China. Now, to reduce the amount of suppliers we have to look through, I would actually go through 4.5 stars and up. That's the next thing, okay? And then what I would do is I would actually start viewing their profile and contacting them. And what I'm looking for here is very, very simple. The first thing is, how many years have they been in business? If they have been in business for under 2 years, it is not a supplier that I want to be speaking to, because that means they may not have that much experience when it comes to actually selling to suppliers or selling to sellers that will sell on Amazon. They do not know the process, and you don't want to be teaching somebody about how to bring products from overseas to the Amazon's warehouse when you are learning yourself. Okay, so you want to ideally be dealing with people that have got experience in this field, and any supplier with 3 years of experience and plus will know what to do. The next thing what I'm looking for is, of course, the reviews and ratings. Just like your Amazon products have ratings, their suppliers have ratings too, okay? So for example, here, this supplier has got 4.7 star review average with 31 reviews, which is a very, very good sign. So I'd make sure to contact them, okay? And then once you have done these things, straight away, you can actually see as you go forward, plenty of these suppliers will actually be quite good for you to look into further. Now, we actually niche them down quite a lot, believe it or not, which means that there's not that many suppliers to speak to. As you can see, there are 2 pages. If you want to reduce, potentially increase the amount of suppliers that you want to speak to, then you may want to take this down and make it to 4 stars and up, okay? But this is all very important. And in my personal opinion right now, I'd probably speak to each and every single one. Now, when it comes to speaking to suppliers, the key is not to just speak to one, not just speak to 2, but speaks to 20, 40 suppliers. I know it may sound like a lot in the very beginning, but what happens is when you message 40 suppliers, 20 of them will not respond to you for one reason or another. 10 of them will have bad English, okay? So therefore you can't negotiate and speak to them properly. Out of the 10, 5 of them will give you relatively massively overpriced items that you know you will never be able to make a profit on. And there's only going to be 5 left. So even though you speak to 40 in the very beginning, you get to narrow that down very, very quickly. And what I would also recommend, and this is something that I always tell my students, and it's one of the bonus items in my mentorship, is essentially opening up a spreadsheet and writing down what each supplier has, what the products they have, what kind of prices they have, their shipping, and so on and so forth. So you can actually see everything on one spreadsheet. That will make your life much, much easier. And instead of spending 4 or 5 days negotiating with suppliers, you can usually get that done within a day or 2 if you have all of the processes and all the systems in place and you are as efficient as possible. So once we have spoken to suppliers, or basically found the suppliers that we want to speak to, the next thing we need to do, and this is big, 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 guys, is actually start the negotiations, okay? Now, these are the negotiations tactics that I have, and this is the PDF that I will provide as a bonus item to every single one of my students that will actually join in on the mentorship, on the courses that I provide. And negotiation is super, super important, guys, and doing it properly is really important, because what happens is that the money that you don't negotiate, the money that you leave on the table, is the money that you basically gave your supplier, okay? And the more expensive your product is, your product will then be actually more expensive to your customers and therefore less attractive. So the more money you save by negotiating effectively, the more attractive your product is to your customers, and therefore you will make more sales. However, there is a caveat to that too. If you negotiate too hard, okay, and you, let's say the supplier says $5 per item and you say, I'm not going to spend more than $3.50. What they will do is they'll say, yeah, not a problem, $3.50 it is. And then they will replace some of the items in that product, make it worse quality and actually damaging the relationship and damaging the product in the process, and basically ensuring that you never sell that product again. This is what may happen when you negotiate too hard and you want to get the best possible price. So you have to always find a middle ground where you get a good price, but you still make sure that the product is of high quality, that you will always get 4 stars and above when you start selling on Amazon. So I will show some of the negotiation tactics right now, as you can see here, that I personally use. The first one is doing your research. Basically, before entering negotiations, thoroughly research as part of the product research, the product that you're interested in. And as you can see here, knowledge is power in negotiations. What does that mean? Really, really simple. When you're speaking to your suppliers, there are a couple of things you can do. The first one, let's say, for example, I'm speaking to my suppliers and I say, hey, I want this dog toy. How much can you give it for? And that's it. Or what you can do is do your research, find out what these dog toys are made out of, find out what kind of size they are, find out exactly, how heavy they are and so on, and write up a much, much more informative quote to show the supplier that you are serious, that you have done the research, that you have done the proper due diligence, and you are here to make business and you are a serious buyer. That is very important, and it will increase your response rate massively, as opposed to somebody who just literally writes out a couple of sentences and hopes for the best. So that's the first thing. The second thing is requesting multiple quotes. And like I said earlier, this is super, super important. You cannot be lazy when it comes to this part of the process, guys. If you speak to anything less than 40 suppliers, you are most likely not going to be getting the best possible prices because you're reducing the amount of people you speak to. The more people you speak to, yes, it may take longer, but you will assure that you're getting the best possible price. You're not getting scammed out of money that you could potentially save. So don't be lazy and do this properly. And then make sure to build a relationship as well. Don't just, speak all about the product. Always make sure to be respectful and courteous. Make sure to actually understand when their holidays are and make sure to congratulate them on this as well. And actually remember that even though you may not speak the same language, even though they may be thousands of miles away from you, you are speaking to another human being. Building a long-lasting relationship is super important, not just in regards to negotiation and getting the best possible prices, but also pushing your product above in the queue, above all of the other potential buyers out there. Because let's say, for example, you buy a dog toy without building a relationship, and what they will say is, hey, the lead time, in other words, since the product is bought until it gets shipped out, maybe 20 or 25 days, because we have many other buyers that we are currently manufacturing these products for. However, if you build a good relationship, what the supplier can tell you is, hey, don't worry, I will push you up the queue because I understand that Christmas is the busiest time for the year for you guys, and I want to make sure that your products come in on time so you can start selling as fast as possible. So building these long-lasting relationships is very, very, very important, okay? And as you can see, there are actually quite a few here negotiation tactics that I do show to all of my students that always ensures that they get the best possible price and gives them that competitive advantage that many other sellers completely forget about. Now that we negotiated with the prices, we have found out the product, we are almost ready to buy, there are two more things that we need to discuss: the shipping and the shipping terms. Now, when it comes to the shipping, it's very, very simple. You have three shipping ways of actually getting products from China into your marketplace. You have air, you have sea, and you have train. The two extremes are the air and the sea. Now, the air is by far the fastest way of getting your products from China into your marketplace. Wherever you are based, it will usually take anything between 1 to 2 weeks to get that product into the country. However, it is also by far the most expensive way of shipping your products in as well. So if you are shipping something very light, something very simple, something very cheap, you may want to use air because you want to start selling as fast as possible. However, if it's something heavy, something big, something bulky, then you will have to place it on the sea and you will have to wait for anything between 4 to 8 weeks, because if it was shipped via air, the shipping prices will be astronomical and therefore there will be no profit left for you. This is how majority of the big companies out there will actually ship most of their products via sea. Now, what I personally tend to do is I also tend to ship majority of my products via sea. However, if the product is relatively small, relatively simple, and relatively cheap, and I am in extreme hurry to get the product as fast as I can, I will actually split the shipment. So what I would do is I would send 200 units via air to get it coming in as quickly as possible, and then I will split the other half via sea, or let's say 200 units via air and then 800 units via sea, because then once those 200 units come in and sell out, the sea shipment is almost, has arrived as well. This, guys, is really, really important because you want to make sure that you are always in stock. If you do it the wrong way, what we'll find out is that sometimes you will sell out and you will be out of stock waiting for that shipment to arrive, which can easily take anything another 2, 4, 6 weeks and so on. Okay, so this, guys, is really, really important. Now, before that, so we have air, we have sea, and we also then have train. Train is something in the middle, okay? Train, anything takes between 4 to 6 weeks. It may not be eligible for all countries. So for example, if you're in the US and basically you are shipping from China, you obviously may not be able to use train, but if you're based in another country, then you may do so. And it's kind of like in the middle. However, that's not where the shipping ends. When also what you have to think about is also shipping terms. And when it comes to shipping terms, as you can see over here right now, there are many terms that you have to abide by, okay? In other words, shipping terms basically means, in the most basic form, is who is responsible for the shipping, okay? And what I want you to do is to look at these two terms right here. EXW, basically meaning that once the product has left the seller's factory, you as the customer are responsible for the whole of the shipping. In other words, you are paying for the product, okay? And then you will pay separately for the shipping. Now, DDP, on the other hand, as you can see, is much more of seller's obligation. So not only you will buy the product, but you will also pay the seller for the shipping as well. So the seller is responsible of getting that product to your doorstep or potentially to the Amazon's marketplace, to their warehouses, okay? Now, in the very beginning, what I would recommend to most of my students is actually going via the DDP route, because it is the most simple, the most easiest, and the most straightforward way to go about it. And there is not much you need to do. So what you need to do is just pay one price to your Chinese supplier, and then they deal with everything else. Okay. Now, that is not the cheapest way of doing things. However, it's definitely the easiest one. Once you understand exactly how everything works, then you go down the EXW route. Basically, this means is that you pay the Chinese supplier for the product, and when it comes to shipping it, you will actually speak to an external company, someone called a freight forwarder, who will get in touch to the supplier on your behalf, and they will negotiate the price, and they will get the shipping from there. They will come and collect it, and they will do all of this on your behalf as well. Now, this is a little bit more complicated because now it's not just you and the supplier. It is actually you speaking with the freight forwarder who also speaks with the supplier. Okay, there are more parties involved, and when there's more parties involved, there is more mistakes and so on. However, if you are dealing with EXW, you tend to save more money when it comes to shipping. One last thing on shipping that I want to clarify before moving on to the next part of this tutorial is, when it comes to shipping, okay, there are three types. You have the air shipping for small and light products, and usually my rule of thumb is anything that is over 100 kilos as the total cargo will actually be shipped via air. You have via sea, okay, as part of a container. And then what you can actually do is, once you actually move up to 6 figures, 7 figures, where I personally am now for the last 2 years, you can actually ship in for containers. Okay, this is what the big companies do. So instead of just having a small part of a 20 or a 40-foot container, you actually get the whole container, and you fill in as many of your products as possible in that container. And that, guys, right there is by far the cheapest way of getting products from China into your marketplace, is actually having a fully fledged container on the ship. The problem with that is because if you are shipping various different products, okay, you will actually have to wait for all of those products to arrive on the ship, on the container. And if one product is ready within a few days to be shipped out, and then another product is ready within a month, or let's say 2 months, you will have to wait, the whole container will have to wait 2 months for those products all to arrive and then be shipped to you. Now, this is much, much longer than air and sea, okay, because all of a sudden now you're waiting for all of these products. However, the savings are massive. So it's definitely won't be relatable to you right now, but it's something that you may want to consider in the future. All right, now that we bought the product, the next thing we need to do is look at the product listing. We have to create the product listing from scratch, because that is what customers are going to be using to make their buying decision. Now, unlike with, going to the marketplace or potentially going to your local shops where people can look and find the product and actually look at it, take it out of the package and see for themselves and make an educated decision whether or not they want to buy it. With the listing, you have to be very careful and make sure that you put your best foot forward, because all they have to look at is the images, the title, and the key features on their small smartphone or their laptop. So what you're going to do next is make sure to do it properly, because this is is what's going to sell the product. If you don't do this properly, even if the product is amazing and it's the best in the marketplace, better than all your competitions, if the images suck, if the title and the key features do not sell the product, you will not be making sales, which is why this part of the process is very, very important, guys. And this is what I talk about in my course in great detail. Now, in order to create your listing, the very first thing you need to do is go onto the manage inventory side of things here. Okay, this is what your seller dashboard is going to look like, something similar like this. You're going to click onto here and you go into inventory and then manage and then catalog and then add products. Okay, this is where you're going to click. You're not going to click onto add products via upload because that is using an Excel spreadsheet. You're going to leave that out and you're going to just go on to add products. Then what that will take you on is to here. Okay, now what you're going to do is this is the fields that you will have to fill in order to add your product into your managed inventory, so to create your listing. And we'll just do it one by one. So we'll go on to product identity first, and in order to make things simple, we're just going to keep the dog toy as the example for this particular product. Now, the very first thing is the item name. Now, this is very, very important because essentially it is the title of the listing. Okay, what that means is essentially what you need to do is you need to put in the title. Now, it cannot be too short because then people won't actually find the product, and basically you may not put in the most relevant search terms that people use to find your product. And you also can't make it too long. You can't use the whole 250 characters because then it will make the title too long, too clustered, and basically it will won't make the listing very, very appealing for the potential customer. So you want to find the sweet spot where you're just putting the most relevant search terms in the title, and I'll tell you exactly how to find those. Once the title is done, the next thing you need to do is look into the product type. In other words, the category that the product should be selling in. The easiest way to figure that one out is just by looking at your competition and finding out and looking into their category, which one is correct for them. For example, here it says right now, examples include plush toys for cats, interactive toys for cats, mice, animal toys for cats. So this one is very related to cats, okay? Whereas here you can see pet supplies, cats, toys, plush toys. So given the fact that I'm selling a dog toy, this may not necessarily be the most relevant category for me, so I would have to change that. Now, what I would change it to is I would change it to the category that other dog toys are selling in. This is very, very important, guys, because if you don't do this properly, what may happen is that you create a beautiful listing, the title, the key features, everything is beautiful. However, you are not making sales. This is one of the big mistakes that new students tend to make, is because they don't put in the right category, that will affect your discoverability. No matter how good your listing is, if this is in the wrong category, many less people will find your listing. Very few will actually click onto your listing. And because very few click onto your listing, then very few people will actually buy. And that will essentially affect your sales, your profit, and so on. So make sure to pay close attention and do this correctly. Then you have to tell Amazon whether or not this product is going to come in variations. In other words, variations meaning with a dog toy, do you have different variations, different colors of that particular dog toy? My recommendations for brand new students is to always stay away from variations because it just adds complexity to your business. So say, for example, I'm selling a t-shirt. Well, variations would be 3 different colors and 3 different sizes, and each color has to have their own 3 different sizes. So instead of selling just one t-shirt, one product that I have to worry about, I now have to worry about 9 different products. Basically meaning I have to think about their listings, about how much inventory I have, and so on. And that is very, very stressful and very difficult for you to look into, because when you're just starting out, you want to keep things as simple as possible, which is why I would always stay away from variations. And matter of fact, having now sold on Amazon for over 5 years and made over $5 million in sales, I actually still stay away from variations and only have a couple of them on some of my listings, because I feel like it brings in variety, brings in differentiation, but I would never go into something that has like 10 different colors and sizes to them, because it's just way too complex. Okay, once that's done, the next thing you need to do is put in the brand name. Now, most of you will not have a brand name in the very beginning. You have just registered your business and your business bank account, which is why you will have to put in, this product does not have a brand name. If you do decide to register a trademark, which is what I actually recommend for most of my students to do, because it provides more functions, it provides more protection for your listing, then you will actually put in the trademark name here in that field and be able to save and continue. However, right now you just have to click this little box and that will lock the field. And actually, as you can see, it puts in generic. Then once that's done, you have to put in the external product ID. Now, what this basically means is you have to buy barcodes that will differentiate your product and basically say to Amazon that this particular product belongs to your company and nobody else's. And the way to get those is actually by going into a website called GS1. Okay, GS1 essentially is a website for GS1 for the UK market is GS1 UK, for the US market is GS1 US. But essentially, this is where you will find the barcodes that will be attached to your listing and nobody else will be able to use them. The key here, guys, is for you to actually get little amount of barcodes in the very beginning. If you're just starting out and you're going to sell one product or two products, then you'll want to go for the starter plan here, which as you can see here in the UK is £50 excluding VAT. You don't need to go for the starter 100 or any more, because what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to sell one product, even if it comes in 1,000 units, you still only need one barcode. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. You only need one barcode. So for most of you, to keep your costs as low as possible, and as you can see here, for businesses with a turnover up to 100,000, this one is most likely going to be the most relevant for you. And what I also want to say is that this is actually used not just for Amazon. This is actually used, as you can see, for Tesco's, for Waitrose, for Facebook, for eBay, and so on. This is a global network that people use to register their products and get validated, valid registration barcodes that you can use, okay? And also what I wanted to say is over here is basically another reason for you to stay away from variations, because as you can see here, if you buy 10 different t-shirts, those 10 different t-shirts have 9 different colors, which basically means 9 variations times 9, and 4 different sizes, you will actually have to get 360 barcodes. That will be very, very expensive. I'm much more of a proponent of just getting one product, one variation, one barcode, and that's it. Okay, if you want to move into variations later, then so be it, but not do it in the very, very beginning. Okay, and then once you have made the payment and you got, like, for example, in most cases, the starter 10, you will go into their user database and you will have those 10 barcodes. You will just click on one of those barcodes, you'll go back onto your listing, you will copy and paste it over here, and then you either choose the UPC or the EAN in the drop down menu, whichever one is allowed, whichever one allows you to finish. The one that is not allowed, you will have a little message here saying invalid, and then you just choose the other one. Once that is done, the next thing we need to do is go into the description side of things. Now, the description basically essentially means is what people will see on the actual listing, okay? Description bit, matter of fact, believe it or not, is the least important part, because people don't really read too many things when it comes to selling on Amazon. They are much more visual than reading, okay? So this one, you want to just put in the search terms that people use to find your product and just describe the product in great detail, but don't go too crazy and don't pay too much attention to it. What you want to really focus on is the bullet points and the images. Now, the bullet points are the key features. This is what you use to actually sell your product. And in order to sell your product, you need to do two things. Number one, you have to put in 5 key features. 5 key features explaining what the product is and why people should buy from you as opposed to somebody else. And those key features will appear right next to the images at the very top of the listing, okay? Super crucial for you to do them. The second one is putting in as many search terms as possible that are applicable to the product that you want to sell. And in order to find those search terms that people use to find your product, you will actually go and use another Helium's tool, Magnum. Okay, this is basically the tool that I use, Magnet, the tool that I use to find high volume search terms that are relevant to your entered keyword. And then for the example, I just put in dog toy. And as you can see here, I've sorted it out by search volume. And the very first one, the top one in terms of search volume right now is Christmas. Now, you may not necessarily use this search term because obviously right now it's coming up to November. But if people use Christmas and they actually are looking more for chocolates, for gingerbread or whatever, and they may not be able to be interested in dog toys, you don't want to put in the keyword phrase just because it has high amount of search volume, because that will actually damage your listing as opposed to get you sales. You only want to put in the relevant search terms. As you can see, the second one here, dog toys, will definitely be very, very relevant to us. The third one, cat food, definitely not. Puppy pads, again, not. Dog treats, not. But dog, yes. Cat treats, no. Puppy toys. Here's another one that has 17,000 people searching it each and every single month. I would put that into the title and the bullet points as well. And as you keep going down, you will realize that some of these are very, very straightforward and you probably would have thought about them before even using this tool. But then, for example, here, indestructible dog toys. Would you have thought about putting in this into your title or your key features? It has 13,000 people searching it each and every single month. Another one, dog toys for boredom. Again, something that I personally wouldn't have thought of. And if it is applicable to my product, I would definitely use that. Dog's birthday, another one that I may potentially be interested in putting in. Interactive dog toys, if that applies to your product, you may want to add that in. All of these should be noted down on like a notepad or something like that. And then when you come back to creating the listing, you want to use as many of those keyword phrases as possible in creating your bullet points. But then you have to approach the most important part of the listing, which is the images. Now, this is so important that I will actually speak about it in detail in the next chapter and teach you exactly what is a good image compared to a bad one. But when I say images are crucial, I am really meaning it, because people are using the images to make their purchasing decision. They can't do anything else but look at the images. So you have to make sure that they are done properly. In other words, you have to make sure that the supplier doesn't send you images, but you actually do it yourself, or you hire someone professional to do the images for you. You have to make sure that you explain to the customer as to why they should be buying from you as opposed to somebody else. If the image quality sucks, you will not sell, no matter how good your product is, no matter how much better it is than the competition. This is where the selling of Amazon is actually done. If the images suck, your product will suck, and so will your sales. So make sure you pay close attention to this. Then once those things are done, we'll move on to the product details. Here, there's a whole bunch of basically fields that you have to fill in that don't matter too much, but they have to be done. And as you can see, they are required in order for you to save and finish. So just very, very quickly, the model number, I would put in just a random bunch of numbers. Model name, again. Here, manufacturer, actually, I would put in anything but the manufacturer, because if you put in your actual supplier, then the competition can find out who you bought your products from, and you may not necessarily want that to happen. The age range here, so for example, if you're selling a dog toy, is it for babies, is it for adult toys, or whatever. Item name, so what it actually is, the color of it, the pet part number, any random number, to be honest, will do. And as you can see, these are all very, very self-explanatory. Some of them may actually not apply to you. So for example, a power plug, it won't be applicable. So I'll just put in no plug. The voltage, again, isn't applicable. It doesn't expire. The unit count, I would just put in 1, and I would just put in count as opposed to millimeters, grams, or whatever. And then keep going down. And then you can see you have to put in the item dimensions. Now, if you're going to actually send the product to Amazon to be fulfilled by Amazon's warehouse, you can just put in any sort of numbers here, because once they arrive to the warehouse, the staff will actually pick up the dimensions of the product. They will actually measure the product and correct those fields for you. So what you put in here doesn't really matter too much in the long term. Once that's in, you go on to the offer stage, and then you will put in your price. Now, don't worry of what you put in here, because you can always edit it later. So the price that you put in here right now doesn't matter. Matter of fact, majority of the fields here can be edited. So don't worry about it too much. If you want to change the images later, you can do so. If you want to change the title, the bullet points later, you can do so. Don't worry. Okay. The next thing here, offering condition type. Again, once you have to put in is new. You can't sell used items, and given that you're selling from China, they will be new, unused. The price here, again, $9.99. And then fulfillment channel. Again, this is kind of like the beauty of Amazon, is the fact that you can send the products to the warehouse and let Amazon to dispatch, provide customer service, deal with the refunds and so on. Because imagine you had to ship all of these items yourself. How long would that take, and how much effort it would take, and how much harder it would make for you to scale up your business? I have scaled up my business to 7 figures purely because I've been able to outsource all of my operations to Amazon. If I had to ship the items myself, and right now I am shipping 250 items on average every single day, I would have very little amount of time to actually do the product research and bring out new products. So this is the beauty of this business model right here. And then what you want to do is you want to put in the item package dimensions. But once again, once you send those to Amazon, they will remeasure them for them, and exactly the same with the package weight as well. And then last Last but not least is the safety compliance. Here you have to tell where the product has come from. In most cases, it will be China. The manufacturer warranty that you provide, if you want to provide one. Whether or not the batteries are required. In most cases for dog toys, it will be a no, but if it's a yes, then you will have to fill in something called a hazmat sheet, which is basically meaning, and this is, I go into detail on my course about this. This is basically a sheet that you have to tell Amazon as to what product, what batteries are actually going to be included with the product. Are they going to be included? What kind of batteries are going into the product and so on, and whether or not this product is dangerous to be fulfilled. In most cases, it will not be dangerous at all. Here, again, you have to put in not applicable, dangerous goods regulation, shouldn't be anything there, whether it contains any liquids such as water or anything like that at all, and then any directions of use if you have to put in. If there's no directions, then you just put in none and that's it. And then once that's done, you will submit it and your listing should show up on your manage inventory page within 15 to 30 minutes. Now, if you put in something wrong or something like that, as long as you are able to save and finish, that's all that matters, because you can always come back and change anything you need to. So don't worry too much about it. And with all of that being said, now let's move on to the most important part of the listing, which is the images. And the best way for me to explain this to you is actually showing you an example of a bad listing with bad images compared to a good one with good images. And you will definitely straight away see and notice the difference, and hopefully will try to go for the one that is doing well and the one that is making the sales and the one that has put enough effort into their listing to make sure that they sell as many products as possible. But first things first, let's look at the bad one. So let's have a look at this one. And as you can see straight away, it is not standing out in my personal opinion. And let's look from the very beginning. The title, very, very short. Yes, it does have a few words that people would use to find a product such as this, like plush dog toy and a dog toy and maybe penguin, but that's it. Nothing else, okay? And there are plenty of other potential search terms that people would use to find this product, as we've known from our previous chapter, okay? So definitely this, in my opinion, should be longer. The next thing is, this particular product, as you can see here right now, does not have a single review. Now, reviews is something that I cover a lot in detail, and it is what will change your conversions from having 10 products sold for every 100 units, 100 people that actually look at your product, to actually 20 products sold for every 100 people that actually look at your listing. So having some reviews, even if it's from your friends and family or whatever, that just buy the product and leave a 5-star review, is good enough. This person didn't even bother to do that, and that is a crucial mistake that actually is impacting them and their sales tremendously. The next thing is we need to do before we look at the images is their key features. And as you can see here, they done none of it. They just put in exactly what the product is, the approximate size of the product, and then the fact that it contains a squeaker inside, and that's it. There are no search terms in here. There is no reason as to why people should buy from this particular seller as opposed to somebody else. Nothing else whatsoever. And then once that's done, well, let's move on to the actual product images as well. And that's going to be a relatively short one as well, because there's only 2. Amazon allows you to add in 7 images and a video if you have your trademark registered, whereas this particular seller said, nope, 2 is enough. The very first image, as you can see here, I can't actually even zoom in onto the image, which goes to show that this is actually a relatively poor quality image, is a relatively low, there's not much pixels in there effectively, and I can't actually zoom in to see the quality of the product, so I don't actually know what I'm buying. And then the second image, and this one doesn't stand out or anything like that at all, and then the second image shows me the back of it. Now this one I can zoom in, which is nice. The first one I can't actually even do that, so this one has got a little bit of more of a quality to it, but that's it. 2 images is all I have to go by in order to decide whether or not this dog toy is for me and whether or not I should buy it from this seller. I don't know about you, but I personally would never ever buy from a listing like this, even if the product is good, because they didn't pay much attention to the title, to the key features, and there is no idea whether or not this product is actually any good because there are no reviews on it. So with that being said, now let's move on to the product that's actually doing quite well in my opinion and has got much better in general, and you can see it straight away why. Let's have a look at the first of all, the title. As you can see, it's much longer. I would actually argue it might be a little bit too too long, but it's still very, very good. 30 days sales here, Helium 10 is telling me that they have sold over 1,000 units in the last 30 days, which is a crazy amount. Okay. And as you can see here in the title, they got all of the relevant search terms for this particular product. Now, I would suggest they would actually change these search terms, maybe do the ones like, dogs for boredom or potentially indestructible toys, because right now those are the ones that are getting more search volume. But straight away, you can still see that this particular seller has paid much more attention in selling this product. Then we go into the reviews. Now, this one obviously has got a lot of reviews, which is important. It's not the best given that it's a 4-star rating. Ideally, you want 5 stars, which is actually quite rare, or at least 4.5, but 4 stars is good enough. And it's no surprise, as you can see here, that even Amazon themselves with no research tools is saying that this product is selling over 100 units each month. That is a big, big thing. But now I want to focus on to the most important part. You guessed it. It's the images. Look at how beautiful this very first image is. They actually even not just Photoshop the image with these little squeaky thingies in there, which basically indicates that there is some sort of noise coming out of it, but it actually shows me how it looks in a dog's mouth as well. So it puts into perspective of how big this actual product is without telling me the dimensions and the centimeters and the millimeters and so on, which is so, so beautiful. The only thing I would say that I would add to this particular image is I would fill in this white part of the image as well. This is a lot of empty space that in my potential opinion could be used quite wisely. However, even without it, this is already standing out quite a lot in terms of the competition, which is what we just saw. The next image, beautiful. Again, it gives us an idea of how it would look on somebody's, countertop or whatever. And then it actually gives us an idea of what it's made from double layer fabrics to make sure that it's super soft. There is a built-in squeak if you couldn't make it out from the very first image, and built-in crinkle paper as well. Each octopus foot contains crinkle paper to attract dogs' interest, which is beautiful. Something that could potentially not be told in an image. They actually spelt it out for us just to give us another reason to buy from this particular seller. Great way to do so. Then easy to clean, again, something that a lot of owners will probably care about. And look, they just, instead of just saying it's easy to clean and then moving on, they actually show there of it being cleaned and how quickly and easy it is to do so. So clever. And this seller knows exactly what the customer is interested in and what will they pay attention to when it comes to buying this particular product. They clearly have done their research. None of this was found in the previous listing. Then teeth clean and keep healthy as well. So what this product is used for and what are the benefits of this product as well. And once again, I love these sort of lifestyle images with not too much text because it actually shows us of how our dog would potentially use. I'm not sure about showing these teeth. Some people would like it, some people will not. That it also depends on your opinion and your preference. Next one, again, another lifestyle image as well, which is beautiful. One after that, another one as well of, potential customer playing with their dog. They can actually visualize themselves playing with it. And then you have a video as well, which I won't play here, but this is something that you can do if you actually have your trademark registered, which is exactly what that seller does have. And it just gives you another reason to actually have your trademark registered, because then you can add these sorts of videos, which obviously you will have to shoot and you will have to create as well. Now with the videos, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. If the video is good, it will actually increase your conversion rates, which is very, very good. And that's kind of what we're going for. However, if the video is bad, it can actually reduce your conversion rates and it can actually make your listing worse. So if you're not sure about videos, you may want to stay away from them in order not to damage your potential listing. But if you have the equipment and you maybe have some background in video editing or stuff like that, then make sure to do this because it will definitely improve on how many sales you are making. Now, what I also wanted to say is actually, as you keep going down here, you will actually see the key features as well. As you can see, they've actually put in the 5 key features, which is exactly what I say. They describe what the product is. They actually highlighted each and every single one to make sure the customer knows exactly what we are talking about. And they're trying to sell the product as best that they possibly can. This is the sort of effort that I always have myself, and this is the sort of effort that I always ask from my students. If you're going to do this and you're going to do this properly and you want to make money and you want to make this, your full-time job or potentially help you leave your 9 to 5 so you can become your own boss, this is what you're going to have to do in order to make your business a success. All right, so now we're going to have to talk about Amazon's advertising. Matter of fact, I'll be honest with you guys, this is where majority of newbie sellers will tend to make the most amount of mistakes and lose a lot of money in the process, because here, this is where us as sellers, as independent sellers, and Amazon have completely different points of interest. Amazon wants us to spend as much money on advertising as possible, because think about it, from their perspective, the more money you spend, the more money they make at very little cost. And every single time somebody clicks onto your listing, they charge you anything between 10p all the way up to £2 per click. Your goal, on the other hand, is to actually make as many profitable sales as possible. You want to reduce as much money on spending as possible, and you want to make every single ad click count. You want to convert as many of these clicks into sales as possible. And what I want to do now is actually show you how to set up your advertising campaigns correctly, what to do, what to look out for, to make sure that every single time you sell a product, you don't end up losing money in the process. Because what may actually happen is that you sell out a lot of your inventory, you see sales, you're happy, you're glad, and then all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of chunk of money coming out of your account to pay for the advertising, meaning that you just sold inventory and you lost money in the process because of PPC. So first things first, let's go back onto my Amazon account. We'll go onto here. We'll click onto advertising, and then we'll click onto the campaign manager. This is where we have to actually set up our first campaign. Next thing we need to do is, this is my campaigns here, as you can see right now. And as you can see, so far this year, I've spent £209,000 on advertising, but in return, I've got £678,000 in sales. And this is not just actually this year, this is actually lifetime, okay? So these are quite valuable in my opinion. And as you can see, if I didn't spend that 200,000, I would be 678K revenue less than otherwise, okay? Then you click on create campaign here, okay? And then you will actually go onto here right now, as you can see. Actually, no, before that, we'll click on campaign. And what you will do here is you can actually get to choose what kind of campaign you want to go for. Now, if you don't have your brand registered, the only campaign you actually get to choose is actually sponsored products. Sponsored brands, like it says, you want to showcase your brand, but in your case, you won't have one. And then sponsored display is at the very top. But once again, it is only for brands only. So which is why I say you want to register your trademark and get your brand registered so you can then use these. That being said though, even though I have my brand registered, I still use sponsored products because this is by far the cheapest way to advertise your product, the most cost efficient way to advertise your products, and the one that makes you the most amount of profit. And as you can see, the highlights here, automatically find the keywords if you want to do so, which we're not going to do, and I'll tell you in a minute. Target keywords on products, and then track return on ads spend in the ROAS, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna click on continue, and then it will get us to create a new campaign. First, we have to put in the ad group name. Here, I would just say create it and put in the name that is basically describing your product just for you. Nobody else will be able to see it. Then you actually go on here and you actually find the product and you click on add. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to be advertising. We'll go down here. The next thing we need to do is say whether or not it's automatic ad targeting or manual. In all cases, in my opinion, this is how I do it. I always choose manual. And the reason why is because if I say it to automatic, Amazon will do whatever they can to rinse through your budget. If you give them £10 a month, £10 a day daily budget, they will try to do whatever they can to get rid of it. If you put in 20, 30, 40, they will do whatever they can to get rid of it. What you want to do is say, no, I want to set my custom bids, and I want to tell Amazon which keywords I want to be listing my products for and nothing else, okay? Then we'll go down here and we'll down here have to choose whether it's through keyword targeting or product targeting. Here, I always choose keyword targeting, basically meaning that when people put in a certain search term, this is where my products will show up. Product targeting, on the other hand, will actually get you to choose on which products can you actually want to place your ad. So when people look down, they will actually see similar products, and this is where you will show up. In most cases, in my opinion, you should just go for keyword targeting just to keep things simple, because if you go through product targeting and that product goes out of stock or drops down in listing, then you drop down with it as well, and you don't want to depend on other products on how well they're doing to compare to yours. Okay, go down lower. And now it's keyword targeting. Here, What you want to do is you want to literally, once you have added your product, you will have a whole bunch of keywords here suggested by Amazon, and you will choose broad, phrase, and exact. Click on all three of them, okay? Click on suggested bid here and put in default bid. And then in my opinion, I always start with 50p. Okay, and then what I would do is I would click on add all. As you can see, 303 keywords have been added. Now you may be asking, why are you giving so many keywords a chance? And the reality is that I don't know exactly what people will type in order for my product to be sold the best. So I want to give as many keywords as possible in the beginning a chance. And then once the data starts coming in, which I'll speak about in a minute, I will then click off most of the keywords that are not working for me, that are not profitable. Remember guys, when it comes to advertising, and it doesn't matter if it's Amazon advertising, your own website advertising, social media advertising, the key is data. You want to start off very, very broad. It's like a funnel. In the very beginning, you want to give everybody a chance, every keyword a chance, and then you narrow it down to the ones that are most profitable for you, taking all of the rest off. So in the beginning, the more keywords that are added here, the better, okay? What we'll do is we'll go down here, negative keyword targeting. This basically means that if there are any keywords that you don't want to go for, then you put that in here. However, in the beginning, you have no idea what kind of keywords will work and not work for you. So therefore leave this blank. Here, campaign bidding strategy, I would always put in down only, okay? Basically, this means is that if you put up and down, you give Amazon the right to raise your bids. So for example, from 50p to £1, if they feel like this is going to convert to a sale. But once again, what they feel like doesn't matter to us. What we want to do is make sure that they never increase our bids without our permission. So I will always put in down only and nothing else. Leave this blank. Campaign name, again, I would put dog toys here. Okay. Put in the start of the budget and then leave the end dates to no end date in my personal opinion. You can always pause it if you want to do so. And then the daily budget, I personally do it £20 per day. So that is the maximum I will give to the advertising campaign. However, if you want to do it less, then so be it. That's not a problem. But you can always see here that they will suggest a high daily budget because they want to make sure that you spend as much money as possible. Amazon seller support system sucks, but if you ever need any questions about their ads, they will do whatever they can to give you as much help as possible. So you want to keep that in mind, guys. Never ever follow Amazon's advice when it comes to PPC. And then what happens is you just click launch campaign, and within 1 hour, your product should be advertised on the pages that you, on the keywords and on the pages that you have selected, okay? You will start seeing your products under the sponsored banner. Now, what you do when you actually start getting data? Well, when you start getting data, you will look at something like this. And this is actually for one of my products that I used to sell, as you can see here. And as you can see here, I spent £4,000 in terms of product and I got £15,000 in sales as a return of that. However, that is not just the benefit of it, guys, because the more products you sell, whether it's through organic or sponsored, the higher Amazon's algorithm is going to push your product up onto the first page. So these spend is directly correlated to the sales, but it doesn't take into the account of how much improvement it provides to the organic ranking of the listing that you guys need to keep in mind. And as you can see here, the main thing that I care about is actually the A cost. In other words, the advertising cost of sales. In other words, if I spend £1 or $1 in advertising for a product that is going to be sold for 10, then my A cost is 10% because 1 over 10 is 10%. If I spent £1 and I got a £50 sale, then my A cost would be 2%. In other words, guys, the lower the A cost, the better. Okay, it's as simple as that. The higher the A cost means that the advertising is actually costing you quite a lot of money. And what that means is that the lower the A cost, the higher the bid for that particular search term. So as you can see here, for example, here I have an oil diffuser here. Okay, it was bidding at 40p. I've got 6,200 clicks on it. I spent £2,300, but in return, I got 566 orders and I sold almost £10,000 in sales. Okay, so this one is clearly working very, very well for me. So I would have a relatively high bid of 40p. Same thing goes to this one, same thing goes to this one. But then once I go past the 30% ACOS, I will start reducing the bids or potentially even taking them off because I only want to focus on the ones that are bringing me the most amount of profit. Remember, the lower the ACOS, the better, the lower the ACoS, the higher the profit. Okay, so as you can see, I originally had 282 keywords that I was bidding for, and at the very end I rounded them out to the best 3 because those were the ones that were giving me the best possible return on investment when it comes to advertising. Now, as you can see from this tutorial, that there is a lot to learn when it comes to selling on Amazon, and many places where you can potentially make mistakes that can cost you a lot of money. If you're serious about this and you want to make sure that you learn the right way, then you have to make sure to click the link down below and join my free training webinar that I carry out every single week. What you can get to do there is actually ask me questions directly and find out exactly any answers that you are looking for that haven't been actually covered in this training webinar. So make sure to click down below, put in your details, put in your name, your surname, your email, and your phone number, and I'll see you very soon.